This is Citrus Lane in Serendipity, and as you can see, there's quite a bit of sunlight here. And right now, it's not that big of a deal because we're still at the very beginning of the springtime here in the low desert. But in the next few weeks, it's going to start to feel like summer here because our temperature just gets really hot really fast. So the project I want to focus on today is setting up shade cloth. This part of Serendipity already has shade cloth set up. I'm going to switch out the black for another piece of the white shade cloth, and then I'm going to extend it over the rest of Citrus Lane. And the reason I want to do that is because in the last few years, I've lost a couple of plants like my Frederick passion fruit. I've lost, and a couple of other vines that just don't make it through the heat because here in the low desert, it gets really hot really fast. And our heat is, I shouldn't even be, it shouldn't even be described as heat because it's more than that. It feels like the low desert bursts into flames. So by adding the shade cloth, I'm going to be blocking out about 50% of the light, but that's going to help things stay a lot cooler during the summer. And I'm going to leave it up all year round because during the winter, it's also going to help block out some of those crazy winds. Or if we have any hailstorms, it'll protect my plants so that they're still in a nice little microclimate. It's going to help me control the weather just a little bit, at least in Serendipity. But before I set it up, I need to paint the poles. You can see a portion of the ones I already have set up. They're painted black. And the reason I did that is just so that I can hide the silver color since I'm using metal conduit and make things look a little bit tidier. So that's what I'm going to be working on today. And I'm not going to be able to set them up today. I'm just going to paint them, let them dry, and then over the next week or so, I'm going to be working on setting up the poles, setting up the shade cloth, attaching it to the house and to the poles. And I think in the end, it's going to make all the plants that live in Citrus Lane a lot happier. Because right now, this portion of the garden looks beautiful, but during the summertime, everything here gets a little bit scorched. Some plants can handle it a lot more, like my citrus, but they still stop growing, and you can see some of the burn on the leaves. And other plants like my guava gets a little bit of damage. Some of my deciduous trees get a little bit of damage, and then other plants just don't even make it. So anyways, that's what I'm going to be working on today, but I'm going to take you into the heart of Serendipity where it's a lot more shaded and where I can do most of the painting. So let's head over there. This area of Serendipity is already a little bit messy, but that's okay. So let me go get my supplies. I have everything on the side of the house, so just give me like 5 minutes, okay? I'm going to be using 3 10-foot conduit poles. These are 1 inch wide. Oops. And I'm also using some 8-foot T-posts. And the reason I like using the 8-foot ones is just so I can drive them into the ground a few feet so that they hold the poles in place no matter how windy it gets. And we don't get a whole lot of rain here, but we do get some pretty crazy windstorms. And whenever it does rain, it's always really windy, and I don't want to have to replace these or worry about them coming loose or anything. Let me grab the last one. Okay, so here's the last one. Oh yeah, right here. I have a basket of supplies here. To paint them, I'm going to be using Krylon's Color Max acrylic latex for indoor and outdoor, and it says that this one is indoor and outdoor, and I'm using this one because I just have it left over from other projects, so I'm just going to use what I have. I don't know if I'll have enough, so I might need to pick up some more, but we'll see. Hopefully I do. The other poles that I've set up in the garden, I didn't drill into the metal conduit, mostly because I didn't want to hear the loud sound of the drill going into the metal. But since then, I've bought some noise cancellation earmuffs, so I'm going to use that to protect my ears, and I'm just going to try and see if I can do it in the first place. I don't know if this is making any sense, so I'm just going to start showing you, and I'll do a voiceover if I have to because I don't really know exactly how I'm going to go about this project. I'm not going to start painting first. I'm going to drill my holes That way everything's set up and then I can paint things. First I'm going to put on my knee pads to protect myself. Okay. Okie dokie artichoke. Okay. Oh my god. Of course there's always red regular worms. Oh my god. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut off the tape. Oh, shoot. Wait, let me try and do this in the grassy area. This is what it's gonna look like by the time I'm done with it. And sorry if I'm talking kind of loud. I couldn't find my earmuffs. Oh, I couldn't find my earmuffs, but my kids let me borrow some of theirs. So I feel like that's very important to protect your ears because the sound of the drill going through the metal is just really, really strong, and you don't want to cause any ear damage. Also, I left these all dirty. This is what the final result is going to look like. I just need to tighten this up a little bit more, and then all of it is going to be painted black. So I have the metal conduit and I have this hook screw thingy going through it, and then a bolt holding it in place. And this is where I'm going to be attaching all of my shade cloth. And because it's drilled in here, it's not going to go anywhere. And if for any reason it starts to come loose, I still have quite a bit of space before all of it comes off. But I don't think that's going to happen. So basically, this is what I'm going for. Dun, dun, dun. So let me show you how I do it. Here's everything else I bought. What is the name of these? These are called eye bolts, and these are 5/16 inch by 4 inches. And I could have gone with something a little bit shorter, but I just wanted to make sure that they could go straight through. But a shorter one would work as well. I just didn't want it to be too tight of a fit, just in case it comes loose at any point. And I picked up a couple. I'm only going to be using 3 for Citrus Lane, but I have other poles set up in Aurora Boulevard that I want to switch out to this style. I didn't do it in the beginning because I didn't have the earmuffs back then, and I was kind of intimidated to drill into metal, but it's really easy. I just did this one as a trial run and it worked amazingly. So here's how I do the other ones. Let me go get the other metal conduit poles though. Sorry. Sorry. Does that one have? Okay. Okay. The good thing about these poles is that they have little markings right here. I don't know what the markings are for, maybe so you can measure the length or something, but they already have little ridges that are kind of engraved on there, and that's going to make it a lot easier for my drill bit to go in. But I can't go in with this size drill bit, which is the 5/16. Maybe I can, but I just feel like I run a higher risk of it slipping or something. So I'm going to drill a pilot hole first so that I can guide myself. Where did I leave my drill bit? Hold on. That way I have a guide I can follow, and then my drill also just feels way more secure. I picked up this pack of drill bits at Harbor Freight for like $10. They were on sale, and at first I thought about not getting them, but I've lost so many. My husband had bought a set of tools and I lost a bunch of his tools, so I picked up these. And look how nicely they can become organized. So I'm using a smaller drill bit. I think this is the size 5/64. I don't know. Wait, am I even facing the camera? And I'm going to use this to drill my pilot hole. So I'm going to make a little hole on the second marking. It has a line at the top, another line down here. And then this one I might need a flip. That way they're all even. Just like this. Just like this. Where's the marking? Where's the marking? I feel like this one doesn't have it in the same spot. But shouldn't they all have it in the same spot? Oh yeah, I did. I just needed to rotate it. I'm gonna put on my earmuffs and I'll probably show you the voiceover because it's gonna get really loud. Let's go. I decided to use conduit poles to set up my shade structure this year, mostly because in prior years I had stuck to using wood. And the wood works, don't get me wrong, but I just figured that these might be a little bit more long lasting. And I liked using the wood post whenever I was able to attach them to the garden beds. But for the rest of Serendipity, for the areas that I want to cover, like Citrus Lane and portions of Aurora Boulevard, there's no garden beds anywhere. There's no wood. We have the cinder block walls, and then the rest of the yard is just turf. So I figured that by using these conduit poles, number one, they would last longer than wood. And then number two, I was also hoping that because they were strong and sturdy, but also lightweight, that I would be able to attach them to the T-post to hold my shade cloth up. And in this case, it was definitely an investment because conduit poles, at least these, I think I paid like $18, $19 per pole. And I bought a couple of them. And that's why I had to do it in stages because the whole project itself is pretty expensive. Shade cloth is expensive. And figuring out how to set it up is also expensive. Or at least for me, it has been because it's been a lot of trial and error. And I've definitely learned a couple of lessons along the way. One of them being always go for quality over quantity. And a perfect example of that is the Black & Decker corded drill that you see me using and the drill bit set from Harbor Freight. So the drill I bought on Amazon a long time ago when we first purchased the home because I needed it for some indoor projects like adding cabinet hardware to our kitchen and other things like that. But then when I started gardening, since I already had it, I was like, okay, perfect. I'll just use this outside. But what you don't see here is the 100-foot long tangled cord that I had to drag around with me everywhere to be able to reach areas throughout Serendipity. And man, that was so annoying. So I really wish that I had just invested in a better quality tool, or at least one that was cordless, like a battery one that I can use for projects like this. And then when it comes to the drill bit set, I purchased that one at Harbor Freight. And it was a very last minute purchase because I had already purchased drill bits from DeWalt when I was at Lowe's. And those were pretty expensive. It was only 2 in the packet. And I don't remember the exact price, but I just remember thinking, what? For 2 drill bits? And then when I saw that pack of like 20 at Harbor Freight for $10, I thought, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to pick this up and I'll just return the other ones because that way I have all these to choose from. But then when I was working on this project, I totally regretted that purchase. I used these drill bits from Harbor Freight on the first pull and the second pull. The first pull was relatively easy. It wasn't too difficult. By the second pull, I started noticing that it was a little bit harder for the drill bit to actually puncture through the metal, even with the pilot hole. And by the third pull, I couldn't use it anymore. You'll see in a little bit, it just keeps spinning in place, but it's not sharp enough to go through cleanly and quickly. And I was using so much force trying to push the drill through so I could finish the project, but my hand was starting to hurt and shake and I was sweating.
after a while, I think I just got so frustrated of trying to get this drill bit to do what it's supposed to do that I finally decided, you know what, I'm just gonna open up the ones from DeWalt that I purchased and I'm gonna try those out to see if that makes it easier. And oh my goodness, it was a world of a difference. It was just so much easier. The drill bit went through like butter. I barely had to put any pressure at all on my drill, and it just did all the work for me. And so that's when I realized, oh man, yeah, it's way better for me to invest in quality over, yeah, in quality over quantity. And then once my holes were all drilled through on these poles, I went ahead and inserted that hook that you see there. I totally could have used a much shorter one, but because I was just sort of making up this process as I went along, I didn't know how long it really needed to be. But looking back now, I'm like, yeah, it totally could have been like half of that length. So I hand tightened everything in the beginning. And then once all of that was done, I went back in and started tightening it again using a screwdriver and different wrenches. And I just kept twisting and twisting and turning until I couldn't anymore. That way it wouldn't come loose because these poles are 10 feet tall. And it's a lot easier for me to get everything in place and as securely as possible before I set them up, because once I set them up, it's going to be such a hassle to have to go up and down the ladder to tighten something if it becomes loose. I wonder if there's any sort of glue for metal or some other adhesive or product that I can use to make everything a little bit more permanent, to really join those metal pieces together without having to use like a soldering machine or something like that because I'm too scared. Mostly because I just really didn't want anything to come apart. I wanted it to stay as intact as possible because once these poles go up, I don't want to have to mess with them anymore.
I was gonna go ahead and just prep all of these poles, but honestly, I feel like if I'm already doing the work, I might as well finish touching up all the other poles that I already have up. That way, I don't have to touch them for the rest of the summer because right now I'm lucky it's still not too hot, but it is going to heat up very, very quickly. So might as well do all the hard stuff and all the most labor intensive stuff right now. That way I have it out of the way and I don't have to worry about it for the rest of the summer.